Michelle, we got a fresh batch of college football playoff rankings, fresh off the shelf. The debut rankings, we have number 1, Tennessee, number 2, Ohio State, number 3, Georgia, number 4, Clemson, and the first 2 outside are Michigan and Alabama. So, it is 7:30 East Coast time. It's probably, 4 o'clock West Coast. What is your initial winners and losers for the debut rankings, starting with your winner?
My number 1 winner has to be Tennessee at this point, the number 1 team in these initial rankings. I think Tennessee absolutely looks like the best team in the country right now so far, and that's largely because so many of our college football playoff regulars have been vulnerable. We've seen that. Alabama lost. Clemson has looked vulnerable at times. Georgia has looked vulnerable at times. I think that Tennessee has absolutely earned this with this high-powered offense that looks absolutely unstoppable and a defense that seemingly continues to improve. I think the committee, and I almost never say this, absolutely got it right with number 1 in these initial rankings. Tennessee deserves to be number 1, and I would think that it'll beat Georgia this weekend and hold on to that number 1 position. What about you? Who's your winner?
My biggest winner is actually the number 4 team in Clemson, because if you watched this last week, we talked about how we thought it was going to be a 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten playoff rankings for the first week, and Clemson just snuck their way in, some want to say, or earned their way if you look at their schedule. They got 3 big ranked wins, especially in their last 4 games, and as shaky as the quarterback play has been, as close as some of these non-ranked on ranked matchups have been, Clemson kind of has a case compared to Michigan and Alabama. They haven't lost, and they play better teams. If you're looking at Michigan, which we kind of look at as the biggest loser in all of this.
Yeah, Michigan is absolutely my biggest loser in this situation, and not because I don't think it deserves to be up there, but because I would have put Michigan in my top 4 in these initial rankings. My top 4 would have been Tennessee, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, in that order for an all SEC, all Big Ten top 4 in these debut rankings. I think Michigan is looking like the best team in the Big Ten. And at the end of the day, I think it should have been Michigan's position in the top 4 to lose at this point, especially when you really see such a strong offense and defense. Like, not that many teams look as well-rounded as Michigan. And I just think it deserved to be a top 4 spot.
Yeah, and the committee, well, not necessarily the committee, but the ESPN analysts talked about Michigan's schedule, and they don't have many good teams that they play in. The Big Ten in general is not that strong of a conference like it's been in the past. It's a 3-team conference with Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. And if you ask me, between Ohio State and Michigan, I think Michigan had the better resume. And if you even look at that Penn State game, Michigan took care of stuff in the third quarter, and it took Ohio State to the last 8 minutes of the game to get past the Penn State team. So I would have possibly had Michigan in over Ohio State. But if you're the Big Ten, they're showing you that last game between Michigan and Ohio State is basically your play-in game to get into the college football playoffs, even though you still have the Big Ten championship, but it's not likely that 2 Big Ten teams are going to get in this year.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The Michigan-Ohio State game at the end of November is serving as a playoff play-in game, essentially, because the Big Ten West is not particularly strong, and I don't really care who wins it. I don't expect them to beat either Michigan or Ohio State. So that is the de facto championship game for the conference, as well as a play-in game, and I just don't see a path for the loser of that game based on these rankings. Based on these initial rankings, we've gotten an idea of what the committee is looking for and what it is valuing, and Michigan not being in the top 4 at this point obviously has work to do. And I just think, especially when you've got Clemson and Georgia right there chasing Ohio State, a little slip up and Ohio State could fall. So I think if it loses to Michigan, then yeah, it's not getting in, and vice versa.